Hello all and welcome to Stingray Tom's Florida and another Take 5 for Florida History. Today is part 10 of my series on the official Florida state symbols. I've covered a bunch of interesting subjects so far, and while they're all standalone videos, I'd recommend that you watch the introduction of the series if you haven't already. In it, I cover how the symbols become state law and represent the state. Today's subject is the orange. There's little doubt that it is the most iconic and important symbol of the Sunshine State. It has not only been one of the most valuable commercial crops, but its image has entered many levels of Florida culture, not at least of which is its connection with tourism. Even in the parts of the state that don't grow oranges, gift shops are still filled with orange-themed knickknacks and tchotchkes. Perhaps the most important fact about the orange is that it's not a Florida native. Somewhat of an irony, considering how many Floridians are also non-natives. As you probably know, the orange is one of many varieties of citrus fruit that includes the lemon, lime, grapefruit, tangerine, and kumquat. All citrus trees originate from Eastern Asia. China and Southeast Asia are also where citrus was first domesticated and began to be developed into its many varieties. Natural varieties such as the pomelo, mandarin, and citron are the ancestors of our modern citrus. Indeed, the orange is a cross between a pomelo and a mandarin, with all its varieties stemming from the original. The earliest mention of the orange dates back about 2,500 years in China, and it was Islamic Moors who eventually brought it to Europe, introducing it to Spain in the 11th century. Although the Catholic reconquest of Spain killed or pushed out the Moors, the orange stayed, and it wasn't long before Spain and Portugal began their voyages of discovery, conquest, and exploitation. Most of the time, oranges and other citrus were part of the ship's stores, as it was known that eating the fruit would prevent the disease scurvy. Not only did the ships carry the fruit, they often carried seedlings, which the soldiers and settlers would plant in the territories they colonized. It's believed that Pedro Menendez de Avil, the Spanish admiral who founded the city of St. Augustine in 1565, brought the first orange trees to Florida. In reality, much of what was brought to the new possession was bitter oranges. Remember, they were mostly considered as a type of medicine. Those sweet oranges were probably also brought in. St. Augustine had some important settlers as well as the military and general laborers. These original oranges, much like the Spanish cattle, horses, and pigs, eventually spread out of the settled areas and could be found throughout much of the peninsula. Like the animals, the trees slowly adapted to the local conditions, but it would take some 300 years after the orange's introduction before the fruit would become a commercial crop. This would occur after the American Civil War, when Florida settlers purchased sweet orange cuttings from Louisiana and grafted them to the Florida acclimatized rootstock of bitter oranges. Orange groves were planted throughout the state. Some became a success, while others would fail. Citrus is susceptible to freezing conditions. When freezes occur, the air turns the inside of the fruit to ice, which then bursts the skin, causing the juice to leak out, thereby ruining the fruit. Since the commercialization of orange growing in the 1870s, there have been cooler and warmer periods. Due to these and other factors, such as increasing land values connected to Florida's population growth, as of 2022, commercial production of oranges and other citrus is centered in southern Florida, heavily in Polk and Indian River counties, though groves are spread over much of the southern third of the peninsula. I don't think there's a need to share production numbers, either from the past or current ones. That information is easily available. In fact, I'll provide a link to the Florida Citrus Council in the notes for more information. That being said, the state is no longer dominant when it comes to orange production. It's still one of the largest crops, however, and while it's partly rooted in nostalgia, the orange is still the king of Florida iconography. Or maybe the queen, if you include Mickey Mouse. So the orange could be considered the champion of Florida's official state symbols. It not only was the first symbol chosen, It is the only one that is represented 3 times on the long list of symbols. By the way, Florida is the only state that recognizes the orange as a symbol. The first of Florida's state symbols was the state flower, the orange blossom. It was chosen in 1909, and the story of how it came to be is in the video I mentioned earlier. It and the mockingbird followed a different process than all the other symbols. Florida's orange blossom is one of the older U.S. state symbols, at an age of 112 years. The 2 other aspects of the orange tree that are symbols are the state beverage, orange juice, chosen in 1967, and the state fruit, chosen in 2005. There are places around Florida that are named for oranges, including Orange County, the home of Walt Disney World, Orange City in West Volusia County, and Port Orange in East Volusia County. But there are also many tourist locations that are associated with oranges. I want to cover a few here, including Lake County's Citrus Tower in Governor's Grove, the Orange Blossom Trail, Cypress Gardens, Florida's Welcome Centers, and the Orange Blossom Special. As for the last on the list, the Orange Blossom Special, it was 2 of the best promotions for the Sunshine State in the early 20th century. The special was, and is, both a train and a song. The train was a passenger service of the Seaboard Airline Railroad that ran between New York City and various cities in Florida. Its primary terminus for much of its operation was Miami. It ran mostly during the winter seasons from 1925 to 1953, and it was designed to take the wealthy Northerners south to the resorts of Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Palm Beach, Miami, and St. Petersburg. The song, a fiddle tune, was inspired by the train and written in 1938 by Irvin T. Rouse. There's a fair amount of mythology around the inspiration for the song, and others have claimed they wrote it as well. It was first made popular by Bill Monroe and has become one of the most famous bluegrass songs ever. Rouse lived deep in the Everglades and was considered a mild-mannered person. There's no record of him ever contesting the authorship, but members of Bill Monroe's band, as well as Johnny Cash, knew the truth. At one point, Cash brought Rouse to Miami to play the song at a concert. It's believed that Rouse wrote the song after visiting the train in Jacksonville in the middle of the night. There's some question of whether it was actually the Orange Blossom that Rouse visited or it was another luxury train. But Rouse wrote the tune and later wrote words for the song with a sibling named Gordon. Many performers played it as an instrumental, but Johnny Cash chose to record the lyrics. Most everyone in bluegrass and traditional country music has covered the song, including Johnny Cash, as you can see. I'd love to play a clip of the song, but YouTube and the copyright owners have made it impossible for any kind of fair use, even on a channel about the history of Florida. So it goes. Speaking of traveling to Florida, the other popular way was by car. Florida was ready for this because they were the first state to create official welcome centers located just inside the state border. The first opened in 1949 on U.S. Highway 17 near Yulee, north of Jacksonville. The center was operated by the Florida Tourism Bureau and provided Florida's post-war visitors with information on attractions and lodging, as well as help from the staff about organizing vacations in the Sunshine State. But really, the most famous thing were the free glasses of orange juice. The initial Welcome Center was such a success that Florida added several more on U.S. routes 1, 41, 231, 90, and 19, each near the borders with either Georgia or Alabama. It's hard to know just how many glasses of Florida orange juice has been given out, but it could be the largest program of free drinks in the world, considering how long it's been operating. Until 2015, it was the state legislature that was footing the bill for the orange juice, but then Governor Rick Scott decided it wasn't worth the expense and vetoed the money. The Florida Department of Citrus stepped in to absorb the $250,000 annual charge, but later budget cuts meant that they wouldn't pay either. Visit Florida, the state's tourism bureau, had its budget cut as well and refused to pay for the free orange juice, so as of 2019 the program was ended. Then the complaints began coming in. Of course, a 4-ounce or 118 milliliter glass of juice isn't really a big deal, but that was kind of the point. $250,000 isn't exactly a large part of the state's budget, and visitors couldn't understand why the decades-old tradition simply stopped. So within a year, the Florida Department of Citrus and the legislature reached an agreement, and orange juice began flowing once again in the summer of 2020. Governor's Grove was a tiny grouping of orange trees that was created by the Minute Maid Corporation in the mid-1950s as a tourist attraction on US 27 in Claremont. There was a tree for each of the 50 states plus each U.S. territory. Every year, Minute Maid picked the fruit and sent it to each governor. I made a video about it last year, which you can watch here. Located just up the road from the Governor's Grove is the Citrus Tower. Long an icon of Florida tourism and one of the 3 towers of the Lake Wales Ridge, the Citrus Tower was built in 1956 on one of Florida's highest hills. For more information about the Lake Wales Ridge, check out this video filmed at the peninsula's highest point, only a few miles from the Citrus Tower. The tower is 226 feet high and is constructed of 2,500 tons or 2,300 metric tons of steel-reinforced concrete. As the name suggests, the Citrus Tower was built as an attraction to draw attention to the thousands of acres of citrus growing in southern Lake County. The tower was built using the funds of many local investors who offered small amounts of money to have it built. Through the 1950s and 60s, it was a popular stop as it was on the main highway from the Silver Springs area south to Bok Tower, Cypress Gardens, and the rest of Polk County's attractions. The 1980s saw regular hard freezes, along with an outbreak of citrus canker, and by the 1990s, commercial citrus growing was essentially ended in Lake County. Because of its proximity to rapidly growing Orlando, the land around the Citrus Tower was quickly converted to neighborhoods and shopping centers. While today an elevator ride to the top of the tower wouldn't provide an endless sea of orange trees as a view, it does give a good look at the area's gently rolling hills and usually a great sunset. Passing by the Citrus Tower and Governor's Grove was one of the segments of the Orange Blossom Trail that passed through Central Florida. The road wasn't an official highway, but was actually an association of attractions, lodging, and restaurants that were on or near the main routes through the center spine of the state from the Georgia border south to Miami. Through much of the citrus growing region, it followed US 27 and parts of US 441. In fact, the route it took through Orange County and into Osceola County is still known by the name Orange Blossom Trail. Obviously, the OBT Association traded on the importance of the orange, but many of the attractions that were members also had direct connections with citrus. I'll be doing a video on the Orange Blossom Trail eventually. It should be a lot like the one I did on Dixie Highway. Cypress Gardens was one of the most important and influential attractions on the Orange Blossom Trail. Located near US 27 in Winter Haven, the park featured botanical gardens and one of the first water ski shows in the world. The gardens and their owner Dick Pope used oranges and pretty locals to promote themselves, as can be seen in this series of postcards. A tiny percentage of the postcards Cypress Gardens produced over the years. Then there's also press photos like this one, likely photographed by Pope himself, that promote both his attraction as well as Florida tourism. The connection with oranges isn't surprising considering Cypress Gardens was in the middle of citrus country with not only thousands of groves surrounding it, but many, many packing houses and canneries as well. The packing houses and canneries were also tourist attractions, especially in the 50s and 60s when agricultural industry tourism was very popular. Florida's tourists could get tours to watch oranges being packed and juiced, as well as see beer being brewed and sugar being refined. After a citrus packing house tour, tourists would inevitably drop by one of the many citrus stores to buy bags of fruit to carry home and even ship to family who lived throughout the U.S. These stores were located in any area that tourists were expected to visit. They were only open in the fruit season, but that lasted from November until late spring because citrus takes much longer to ripen than most fruits. In fact, it's not unusual for the trees of some varieties of oranges to be bearing both ripe fruit and blossoms at the same time. The blossoms, and even tiny fruits, are for the next year's harvest. Today, the popularity of you-pick fruit operations around the country have found their way to Florida. Blackberry and strawberry farms are popular here, but citrus also has become an attraction, as can be seen by this operation on US 27 south of Claremont and not far from Walt Disney World. Visitors not only come away with fresh fruit, but have the opportunity to go among the trees and harvest it themselves. This orchard has a variety of oranges, grapefruits, lemons, tangerines, and even kumquats that allow for visitors to pick ripe fruit for 6 months or so. So as of 2022, the Orange Blossom Special hasn't been running for about 68 years. Governor's Grove is also long gone. The Citrus Tower is enjoying a bit of a renaissance, though the view hasn't been of orange trees for 20 plus years. The Orange Blossom Trail is little more than a name on a bunch of street signs, and Cypress Gardens is now Legoland, and there's not much of an orange connection there anymore. The Welcome Centers are operating, and for the time being you can still get your 4 ounces of free juice. And there are the you-pick attractions, of course. Visitors can drive through Polk County, especially on the oft-mentioned US 27, and see hundreds of acres of orange trees. They can also see the huge packing houses and plants where 90% of Florida's oranges are converted to juice. By the way, I'll be creating a short supplementary video that will feature a few of the brochures I've shown here in better detail. Florida's connection with the orange is as profound as any of its official symbols, including the alligator or dolphin. When Americans think of oranges, they think of Florida. And when they think of Florida, well, they think of Disney World, but the orange is probably a close second. Thank you for watching another of my videos. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video if you did and subscribe to the channel to learn more about Florida's tourism history. Stingray Tom's Florida, traveling through time around the Sunshine State.